Welcome to my Scrape universe. It's your boy Ars, back at it again with another video. I wasn't sure on exactly how I wanted to start this video, but I figured that my old intro was fitting for what I wanted to say here. I would also like to note some stuff before we get into the full swing of things. First, this video was completely scripted and done in one take. I very rarely script any of my videos, but I think that in order to properly cover all the points I need to make, scripting is necessary, or I'll be going on tangents for the entire video. Second, there will be virtually no editing in this video because I don't want it to detract from what I'm about to say. Also, I suck at editing, so why bother, right? Third, I apologize in advance in case the sound quality sucks because I don't know how to use Audacity properly, and I'm still using my PC gaming headset from 4 years ago. Fourth, I want to say that I hope you guys are doing alright through the turmoil that the world has been in. And if you're not okay, and things aren't okay, I believe that things will get better for you. Humans are unbelievably resistant, something I've learned from personal and anecdotal experience. I know that it's been an incredibly long time since I made any meaningful content, but I've been going through my own personal turmoil through the past year that I only recently started navigating past in order to become a better version of myself. I would like to make one last important note before we go further, though. From this point forward, this video is going to be serious and somewhat depressing, so if you don't want to hear it, I advise you click off now. I decided that before I tell you what I plan on doing next, you hear the context on why I want to do it, which means I have to be completely honest. Don't worry though, there's a silver lining at the end of the story, so if you're worried about leaving the video demoralized, you likely will not. You're probably wondering what I've been up to, and if you weren't wondering that, I have to wonder why you even clicked on this video. Regardless, we all know that 2020 was a pretty garbage year due to COVID. Surprisingly, that didn't make things that much worse for me since I was used to staying inside anyways. If anything, 2020 was a bad year for me due to the fact that I was constantly in my own head, overly critical of my own actions or lack thereof. Add politics in the pandemic and you have agony as the poster boy of the year. It didn't help that literally 1 month into 2020, I was fired from my job as a work study. Tragic, I know. I think that I'll tell the story another time because I'll definitely get tilted if I explain it here now. Despite all of this though, back in August, I finally finished my bachelor's degree in business administration. Hopefully I never have to go back to school in my life, given that I've been in and out of school for literally 90% of it. After I finished, I lost what little motivation I had left to do anything else. So I just moped around in my depression again while half-heartedly looking for a job. I know that many people say, herder, I'm depressed. But I was diagnosed as severely depressed when I was 19 due to unresolved anguish from my father dying when I was 15, on top of the fact that I felt like I no longer had any purpose for existing. I quite literally suppressed these emotions for 4 years because society thought it'd be fucking hilarious that, as a man, if you feel like you're going to cry, or are suffering through hard times, you should just suck it up and stop being such a little bitch. So yeah, that was a thing. I've been on several antidepressants throughout the past 6 years, but the most recent ones were bupropion. Hopefully you heard that. That's the leftover bupropion that I've held on to since April 28th, 2020. And the reason why I stopped taking them is because I despise antidepressants. However, my therapist, who was my podiatrist, meaning that she's known me since I was 5, told me that I shouldn't give up on them, and so she ended up prescribing me duloxetine instead. That surprisingly helped lift the fog a bit, but I still felt horrible. Well, while dealing with existentialism and depression, I was looking for a job and failing miserably. From August until December of 2020, I did have a few interviews and did well on most of them, but regardless, I didn't get any offers. So going into 2021, I was still depressed and still suffering from existential dread. My therapist, who was very busy due to her being a highly merited doctor in the medical space, knew I needed additional help and time, so she recommended I see another therapist and she would talk to me every couple of weeks. All I could think was, fucking great. Now I'm back to doing the same shit I was doing 5 years ago. Here I go wasting my time again. Regardless, I still decided to do it for myself because I had to improve my life somehow. because otherwise my life would become an amalgamation of ruin that I had no way of ever coming back from. So I started seeing another therapist. While I was doing this, I continued looking for a job, failing of course, but my existential dread and ideas about the human condition led me down a very odd path. Seemingly out of nowhere, my 3 a.m. thoughts and conversations with myself were changing in direction. Instead of merely stewing about why I existed, I started thinking about what I could do with my existence. I started thinking about what I enjoy and why I enjoy it. I started thinking about what I could do if I could truly do anything. One thing that echoed and remained consistent amongst my thoughts were human suffering, and not just my own. I thought about how much mental anguish I have been in for 10 years, and asked myself a question. Why have I accepted this as a default state of being? Why have I grown numb to the suffering of others who suffer just as much, if not more than I do? And more importantly, why have I decided not to do anything about it? Then suddenly it clicked. What I wanted to do, what type of person I wanted to be. I wanted to help people with their mental anguish. I wanted to help others reach their full potential. It was staring me in the face for what seemed like eons, but I was so self-absorbed with my own mental anguish I had completely forgot what I accomplished. I forgot what I used to do. I forgot that I used to be the one that people could talk to when they were suffering and when they didn't know what to do. One of the first things that came to my mind was when I was 17 and a girl who I was friends with, I use friends very loosely here, joined my Xbox Live party. She was a member of a squad that I led in some gaming communities back in the day. Anyways, she was in tears because her friend just died. I didn't realize in the moment, but in hindsight, most wouldn't have bothered helping someone they barely knew with a tragedy, but I did. For hours I sat there, I listened, I talked to her, and ultimately, I calmed her down. I have no idea why I did this, given that in my own opinion, I'm one of the most selfish, narcissistic, and arrogant people that I know. Despite this, I still did it, as if it was my responsibility. As I was writing this, it turns out that one of my old friends from back in 2010 through 2015 messaged me on Xbox. We used to run shit together in a gaming community called KSI and then DBD, but we haven't talked to each other for what feels like eons. It's funny. I'm adding this section to this already long essay because for a day, I doubted myself again and whether or not I should actually release this video. I get on my Xbox on a Sunday, a day which will be somewhat relevant later, and I am pleasantly surprised to see that he has messaged me for the first time in years. I figured I'd read out what he wrote while taking out some identity specific things. It reads, "Hey, this is blank from the old KSI then DBD days, but bro, I haven't touched my Xbox in a minute, but I wanted to get back on one last time before I part ways. I saw your gamer tag and assumed this is still the good old Infinity. I just wanted to thank you for all those memories I had as a 13-year-old and how it's crazy to think that I'm 22 right now and how that shit was almost a decade ago. I hope you've been taken care, brother, and wish we could still have those good times back on Reach. This is probably my last time ever jumping on this account, but I hope nothing but the best for you, brother." After I read this the first time, I almost cried like a little bitch. Even the second time I read it, I still felt the same way. All the doubts and concerns I had were erased with his words, and I let him know that. That was something that I aspired to do. For years, I have taken leadership positions in real life, whether it was being the team captain of my debate team, being the pseudo-captain of my baseball team, or being a part of my high school student council. Even in games online, which is pretty much completely disconnected from reality, I constantly found myself leading a squad or guild of online nobodies as their tactician, and literally making them one of the most terrifying group of players that any team or server would abhor facing with every fiber of their being. Even in those leadership positions, I had constantly helped people try to become better in any way I feasibly could. And so what should have been obvious became clear. If I could do anything, I wanted to help others by mitigating their suffering as much as humanly possible and help them reach their full potential. Initially, I thought that meant becoming a therapist myself, but that was unreasonable as I would have to go back to school, and not only did I not want to do that, I have enough debt to pay back to the government. Then I immediately dragged myself back to reality, and not for the reason that you think. I didn't come crashing back to reality because my idea was absurd and completely and utterly impossible to achieve. No, it was much simpler than that. I was still miserable. Even in all the times that I sacrificed for my own well-being and my own mental state to help others, I realized that I never went the extra mile to fix my own life first, before I started worrying about the lives of others. And so I started writing in my phone what should have been glaringly obvious for a decade. I cannot help people with their suffering until I resolve my own. Below that, I wrote 4 bullet points. Improve self in order to reach full potential. Become a productive and contributing member of society. Use newfound knowledge to improve the lives of others to help them reach their full potential. And then the 4th is question marks. I have zero clue what the 4th step is, but I gather that I'll figure it out on my way throughout life. I also just realized while writing this that there's a date at the bottom of the note on my phone, indicating when I came to this realization. January 7th, 2021. That's when my entire mindset changed. On a cold and dark Sunday morning. This was a very odd realization to make on the day of the Lord, despite the fact that I've been an agnostic atheist since I was 16. It's just really funny to me the more that I think about it, so the irony is not lost upon me. Anyways, despite the fact that I realized how I wanted to utilize at least a part of my life, I was still in no position to help others. I was depressed and unemployed and thus woefully unprepared to help anyone. So while still taking antidepressants and talking with my 2 therapists, I started scrounging YouTube, looking for anything or anyone that could free me from my suffering, or, at the very least, tell me how to free myself. And thus, I came across a forgotten ally. Someone who I became enamored with when I was 21 or 22, but I completely forgotten about recently due to his disappearance off of the face of the earth during 2020. Jordan B. Peterson. Yes, you heard that right. I rediscovered Jordan fucking Peterson. If you don't know who he is, he's a clinical psychologist out of Canada who became absurdly popular after challenging what was known as the SJW ideology in 2015 through 2016. His popularity truly exploded after his entertaining interview with Kathy Newman, which I highly recommend watching on your own time. It's funny shit. Anyways, I grew attached to his intelligence and his level of articulation that seemed almost inhuman. His grasp of the English language was well beyond my comprehension, but despite this, virtually everything he said made complete sense. It was only after rediscovering him did I realize why he really became so inordinately popular, and why his seemingly cult followers of young men never abandoned him. He helped them find meaning and responsibility by being the surrogate father figure they never had. That's why what he said resonated with me so much. I had no meaning in my life, no purpose, because I constantly put value in the bare minimum of the responsibility that I held. So every time I lost responsibility, whether it was my responsibility to complete my degree, or go to work, lead my debate team, or lead my squad, I lost my purpose for existing. It wasn't my father's death that was responsible for my depression or my existentialism. That was merely a trigger. It was my lack of responsibility and thus the lack of meaning in my existence. Every time I listened to some random compilation of motivational speeches / lectures by Dr. Peterson, the clouds that were already clearing were vanishing with greater speed than I thought possible. In one of these compilations, I learned that Jordan himself suffered just like I did right up until the exact age I am now. However, when he was 25, he realized that enough was enough. He had to clean his life up, or he was on a fast track to nowhere. And so he did. While that made me feel significantly better about my situation, as I subconsciously felt it was too late and thus meaningless to change my life so late in the game, I still couldn't figure out what would truly trigger me to do something about my shitty situation. I knew what I had to do. I knew what I wanted to do. However, I didn't know how or where to start. Then, as if the universe was backhanding me with its grace, a video of Legend appeared in my recommended. This video was one that I briefly remember hearing about but never took seriously because of how much it was memed. The video was on Jordan telling people to clean their room. Except there's no joke here. There's no meme. I seriously listened to Dr. Peterson telling me to clean my room. In the back of my head, I thought, okay, this kind of makes sense, but could this actually change my life? I was unsure, but I thought that I'd consider it. I would seriously clean my room. However, I dawdled, and once again, on one of those legendary 3 a.m. struggle sessions, I looked around my room. Seriously this time. More than I ever had in my entire life. No avoiding the glaring problems or pretending they didn't exist. And what I saw appalled me. I could barely see my own floor. There were clothes strewn everywhere. There were wrappers and water/juice bottles as far as the eye could see. Suddenly I was filled with a fire. And so I decided, fuck this. I'm cleaning my room right now. And so I did. At 3 or 4 in the goddamn morning, I stopped moping in my hoodie/track pants and started being productive. I moved shit around, hung stuff up, bagged and threw shit away. Holy shit, I was actually doing it. 2 hours had passed. I re-entered my room for what felt like the 30th time in the past 2 hours from getting rid of so much crap, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by what I saw. Not only could I see my floor, but my floor was in better shape than it had been in over a year. It wasn't ideal by any measure, but at least I could walk to my bed without tripping over shit. I had done it. I had cleaned my room. Now what? Well, I knew that I obviously had to keep it clean, but I now had an inordinate amount of energy that I had no clue what to do with. So I sat on it for a bit and made a decision. Tomorrow I'm going to start exercising. It doesn't have to be really difficult or anything, but just do something. So the following day, I got in the push-up position and started doing some push-ups, and it was hard. 10 push-ups. That's literally all I could do without collapsing under my own weight. Now mind you, I'm by no means overweight or obese by any measure. At the time I was 5'10" and 170 pounds. I knew I was out of shape, but I didn't know I was that out of shape. Regardless, I still did the 10 push-ups, and then I did 10 squats. The squats were nearly as hard as the push-ups, but hey, I actually exercised seriously for the first time in over a year. However, I knew this was only the beginning. I had to keep working out, not just now, but every damn day until I couldn't anymore. And that's what I decided. However, I still had a lot of energy to use, and I wanted to do more. What was another thing that I wanted to do that I had put off? Then I remembered I'd always wanted to learn a language. I was an anime fan since I was 10, and I always said, one day, I'm going to learn Japanese so I can watch anime without subs. Well, of course, I never fucking did that. My excuse before? The same as everyone else's. It's too hard. It'll take too long. I don't have enough time. Well, what was my excuse now? Well, I don't really watch anime anymore. Haven't touched an anime since last year. However, something that I found early in 2020 popped into my head at the time. Have you ever heard of HoloLive? Well, if you haven't, good. I have no desire to drag you into the rabbit hole with me. If you have, you know exactly how addicting and entertaining that content can be. And with all the time in existence to myself in 2020, I spent an inordinate amount of time watching HoloLive clips. If anyone's wondering, the one who dragged me into the rabbit hole was Bakura clips, and those were subtitled by Nekla Makuri. Then I realized, what if I could get to a level of Japanese fluency that I could understand these idols in real time? What if I could actually read the title of their streams without scratching my head and throwing my hands in the sky? Well, it's decided. Now I'm going to learn Japanese. And wouldn't you know it, while bullshitting around in the Google App Store while literally not looking for the language app or looking for a language learning app at all, Duolingo pops into my recommended apps. Duolingo? I thought to myself. Then I started remembering all the damn Duolingo memes I was subjected to a couple years ago, and it all started making sense. So I said, screw it. Wasn't planning on downloading this app, but I might as well. And so I started taking some lessons and was pleasantly surprised that I was picking up on the stuff faster than I thought. Then I remembered, wait a minute, isn't there like 2 or 3 writing systems in Japanese? Now that I think of it, I can't even read the words I'm supposed to be learning. Maybe there's a spot where I can actually learn the writing systems first, and then I can come back to these lessons. Sure enough, I found that the hiragana and katakana system were both available to be learned. However, for some reason, a writing system was missing. I knew one was missing because there were still symbols I was incapable of deciphering that I kept seeing all over YouTube. And by all over YouTube, I mean hololive titles and thumbnails. Then I remembered. Fucking kanji. That was what I was missing. So I started doing research on it, and I was shook. Kanji was not only the third and one of the most important systems in the Japanese language, but it was estimated that I would have to learn anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 characters just to be able to properly navigate the language at a high level. Worst of all, I had no idea where to start, and I had no idea where I was going to learn it. So, away I went onto the Google Play Store, looking for an app where I could learn some kanji, and the majority of these apps sucked. Except one. I found another language learning app like Duolingo called Busuu. I signed up and realized, holy shit, they actually have kanji lessons. Even better than that, they teach you how to properly understand Japanese sentence structure, something that Duolingo doesn't do that well, if at all. And so I decided I would learn on both apps. I would primarily learn the hiragana and katakana system on Duolingo, and I would learn Japanese sentence structure and nuance plus kanji on Busuu. I didn't decide this immediately after finding Busuu, but I recently started practicing kanji and I'm having fun with it. Wait a minute. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, the dreaded job hunt. Well, going back 2 months now, after I finally cleaned my room and started exercising daily, I finally started learning Japanese. It feels like everything changed almost immediately. I started applying to more positions. I kept updating my resume, and I started putting myself on more job postings than I care to admit. I went from only having maybe 1 or 2 people reaching out to me a week to doing a bare minimum of 2 interviews while talking to 3 different orgs a week. However, I still couldn't catch a break. For 5 months I've been looking for a job and I couldn't find anything to save my life. I had concluded in early February that yeah, I probably won't find a job for another 2 or 3 months, but I was fine with that. I knew that COVID had rocked the job market, so this would take a while. However, as long as organizations were still interested in me and kept interviewing me, something would have to give eventually. I was wrong. However, not in the way that you think. I was wrong that I would probably find a job in a month or 2. But I would get an interview for a job and promptly be made an offer only a week after I made that conclusion. After everything I suffered through, after all the bullshit that I had to wade through in order to get here, I had finally done it. I had found another job. You want to know the kicker? I can work from home without ever having to go to an office. How, you ask? Well, the organization that accepted me sent me over a lot of equipment to do my job. And no, I can't use this equipment for personal use, so don't ask. So I bought a chair, I bought a desk, and I've been working from home as a contractor since February 22nd. As you're watching this, I finished my 2 weeks of training, and I am on to my 3rd week. But wait, there's more. Remember the exercising? Remember the Japanese lessons? I've been exercising every day for 60 days straight. Nothing serious, of course, but I at the very least can do 25 push-ups without feeling as if I'm going to die now. I've been learning Japanese on Duolingo for 60 days now and Busuu for 21 days. I can completely read the hiragana and katakana system. Not only that, I'm now beginning my journey to mastering kanji as well. I'm by no means a master of hiragana or katakana, but I've come a lot further, much faster than I initially thought possible. However, it's not enough. It's never enough. I can still be better. I can still do better. I didn't tell you all of this to flex or to brag, by the way. I did this to prove a point, that no matter how deep of a hole you think you're in, you still hold the shovel. You dug yourself in a hole. You dig yourself out, even if getting out is 2 times harder than getting in. To get to the point that I've been dragging out for who knows how long now, Two things have been bouncing around in my head. My dream of mitigating suffering and helping others reach their full potential, and this goddamn channel. I had no clue how exactly I was going to dedicate my life to reducing suffering, but goddamn it, I had to think of a way. And then I remembered. You guys. I have a channel. I have a voice, even if it is small. I may not be able to be a therapist or anything, but maybe I can start creating content for you guys again. Maybe I can touch the lives of at least the life of at least one person who might be suffering with my voice and make their life better. And so I fucking will. You're probably wondering then, why did I choose the title The End of an Era? Simple. I'm abandoning this channel. You can already imagine some of you going like, huh? I thought you just said you were going to be making content and trying to help others. Well, I am. But who said I had to do it here? Do you know when I made this channel, guys? Without looking? November 23rd, 2010. Literally a decade ago. I was 15 at the time, and by my estimation, I made this channel exactly 52 days after my father passed away from colon cancer. I think it's time I put this channel to rest and start anew. And so I will. I created a new channel called Magna Ortis Ars, Latin for Great Rising Technique. There I plan on talking about the human condition, human potential, and basically do whatever I want. Everything I've always wanted to do. Don't worry though, I have no intention of talking about politics or drama on that channel. I haven't reached a level of articulation or knowledge to truly jump into something that complex, and I have no intention of alienating anyone even further due to the utter division that this country has undergone the past decade. This new channel will be where I can be more myself while creating content that will, hopefully, inspire others to be better and, more importantly, learn more about what's truly important to me. If by some sheer miracle that channel surpasses 1,000 subscribers, I will monetize that channel so that if people wish to support me, they may. However, I have no intention of asking or begging anyone to do so. I just know that for every minute that I spend creating content for free, I could be making money doing something else, so I might as well be compensated for my efforts if people find my efforts worthwhile. And thus, I close the curtain on this channel. I will no longer be uploading on this channel ever again, and it will permanently fall silent. I will not private my videos like the last time I went on hiatus, so you can at least come back here if you want to re-watch my old content. I have no clue why you want to do that, but hey, knock yourself out. I'm leaving this channel to finally stop clinging to my past and move forward. To be a better person and start helping others. You know, I don't believe I ever explained why I wanted to help others, have I? I've given you part of the reason, but not the whole story. Well, before I answer that question, I think it's best to go over what I learned throughout my short life. This is what I've learned about the humans with whom I share this soil. I have learned in the short 25 years of my life that Americans are some of the most stupid, arrogant, incompetent, ignorant, selfish, and self-entitled assholes I've ever had the displeasure of sharing the same space with. I don't completely exclude myself from these descriptors, as I still have a long way to go. However, I have learned that this minority of Americans shouldn't deter me from helping those that truly want to improve things for themselves and those they care about. Because the people who have helped me come this far and never gave up on me, even when I didn't believe in myself, are people worth fighting for. I cannot repay them no matter what I do, but I can at least extend some of the kindness I gain from them and pass it on to others. I can at least do that. For that reason, I will choose to believe in human potential and American potential until I have a weapon pointed at me, and that same weapon brings my life to an end. In order to see this potential to its fullest, I will utilize all the knowledge, ego, wisdom, and narcissism I possess to help others become better with me. The way I see it, the better things become for you guys, that maybe you'll be able to help someone else, and as a result, life will become less agonizing for all of us to go through. I still have a long way to go, but if anything I've said in this video resonates with you, and you want to see what type of content I will create, like this video and subscribe to the channel in the description. If you're interested and are fundamentally upset that I came back just to tell you that I'm not making the content you want anymore, you're free to unsubscribe from this channel and dislike the video. I haven't made a video on this new channel yet, but by the time you finish watching this video, I should be working on a new video to put on that channel. My goal is to release one video on that channel a week, and while all of it won't be supremely creative or well edited by any measure, I'm hoping that people can learn something from it, and hopefully I can learn while thinking of ways to entertain and enlighten you all. Before I end this video, here's one last note that I wrote to myself that I want you guys to hear. I wrote it on February the 21st, one day before I started my new job, once again on a Sunday. So here goes. There is a lot of untapped human potential in this world. There are a lot of twisted things in this world as well. There is a strong undercurrent of darkness that exists that will cause untold suffering and tragedy for others for an eternity. I will not avert my eyes from it. I will not run from it. I will acknowledge it. I will understand it. And I will fight it. Matane Mina. Your boy Ars is out.